President Trump's special envoy to the Middle East met with hostage families in Israel this weekend. The Hostages and Missing Families Forum says that Steve Witkoff told them a ceasefire deal should be an all or nothing agreement, with all 50 hostages in Gaza being returned in one go.
Why don't they do that?
Protesters had gathered in Tel Aviv.
I don't know why Hamas doesn't just capitulate. I mean, there's nothing like this is a total losing battle. Like, you're not going to win against Israel and the United States. It's not going to happen. So, like, it's just every day they keep this going on, more people get killed, and it achieves no goal.
After Hamas released videos showing emaciated Israeli hostages still held in Gaza. A warning, these images are disturbing. This is a still image from the video. It shows one hostage in a fragile state. As ceasefire talks remain stalled, Palestinians in Gaza are facing a mounting hunger crisis.
Is there weighing the propaganda war? I don't really think that matters in terms of international politics. I don't really think it makes a difference. Like, just because there's a handful of leftists that are like hyper-focused on Palestine doesn't mean that they're winning this war and everybody feels this way.
Joining me now to discuss, CNN Global Affairs analyst Kimberly Dozier. Good morning to you.
Hamas is winning public opinion. Israel's hated. I think that Palestine is winning public opinion, but Hamas isn't. I think that's a very big difference.
With
very big difference. Huge difference.
Why do you think that Hamas released them now?
It's a tactic to put pressure on the Israeli government to make concessions, because what's happened is the Israeli government and the White House together have decided to go with a more maximum pressure campaign instead of saying yes to some of Hamas's demanded compromises as part of this two-stage deal. The U.S. and Israel are now saying it's got to be done in a one-shot deal where Hamas agrees to completely disarm and all of the living and the dead hostages are turned over. Maximalist positions that have been met on Hamas's side by saying, no, we won't disarm. We won't disarm until there's a Palestinian state. So that's why Witkoff had to meet with the hostage families to tell them this doesn't mean.
When we start negotiating with terrorists, you always negotiate with terrorists. Of course you do that. Like, they say, it sounds good to say that you don't, but of course they do.
Up on their loved ones.
And so this hardening on both sides, where does this lead? Talks broke down a little more than a week ago, maybe a week and a half now. Where does this go if we consider the pressures that Netanyahu is facing, not only from those families, but in his own government, from the president here in the U.S.? What's next?
I feel like a lot of the Western sentiment and the U.S. sentiment with Israel is that we don't want to pay for this. Like, we don't necessarily give a fuck necessarily about Hamas, or, you know, we're not fans of Hamas. We don't like Hamas, but, like, we also don't like Israel either. Like, and it's a matter of, like, it's a matter of priorities, right? I mean, why are we investing and, like, getting involved in this when we have people that are, like, on food stamps here, right? Like, that's the issue. Don't care. I think that's really kind of where things are going. We don't like terrorists, really? Yeah, what a surprise.
Well, in cases like this in the past, when you've got Israel and the U.S.
Palestinian civilians aren't Hamas, though? Nobody said that.
Playing the hard line, that's when you've got to have somebody else step in.
You made that
up. In this case, you've got the Qatar and Turkey route together with Egypt. They're continuing to talk to Hamas. Hamas leadership went to Turkey for discussions there, trying to get them to reach some sort of compromise. You've also got another track, Saudi Arabia, in discussions with Britain, the EU, Canada, to recognize a Palestinian state. So this is basically the carrot for the White House. Saudi Arabia is saying, if you want your Nobel Prize, if you want peace in the Middle East and to expand.
If Trump gets a Nobel Peace Prize, I cannot, dude, if that happens, that is going to be fucking insane.
Abraham Accords, President Trump, you've got to back a Palestinian state, which the current Israeli government doesn't want. So that's the different tracks that are trying to break the deadlock. But parties are hardening their positions, and for now, that means continued fighting on the ground. And
Jesus
with only
Christ.
maybe 30 trucks reported as having gotten in with aid over the weekend, despite Israel saying it's going to allow more aid in, that spells just more suffering for the Palestinians caught in the middle of this on the ground.
So, I mean, in my opinion, I think they should just surrender. Like, I mean, they're just getting killed. It's a completely asymmetrical war. They have no way of winning. There's not even a possibility. Like, even if they lose, even if Israel has bad PR, it doesn't really matter. Like, it's like, okay, there's a bunch of leftists that don't like Israel. Okay, who cares? It doesn't really make a difference. They've got nothing to lose. They don't have, well, they do. Their lives. I mean, they could die. But, like, again, it's not about surrendering to religious zealots. Well, that's fine. I mean, you can say that. Maybe you're right. But either way, all I'm saying is, like, I don't see there being any good ending for them. Like, I don't see any universe where these people come out ahead at all.
So this meeting that Witkoff had with the hostages, their families, they report that he said that the U.S. has a plan to end the war and bring all the hostages home. Now, we followed up with his office to find out what's the clarity behind that.
Yeah, I mean, I think so, too. I mean, like, this shit's taking too long. Yeah, I think so, too. And political support for Israel is becoming less and less viable. It's working ultimately, but at an enormous cost. Well, what I'm saying is that when Israel stops being supported by the United States, I think that Israel will probably turn up the heat. Because at that point, and I don't think it's going to happen either way, but what I'm saying is that I think that if anything is kind of stopping Israel from being more aggressive, it's probably the United States. That's probably the reason why. And the moment that they're off the leash and they can do whatever they want, I think this is over in a matter of weeks. How can they? Well, Israel has a number of, like, weapons and, like, technology, and also, like, I mean, Hamas isn't like a hyper, advanced group of terrorists, right? I mean, especially with Iran, that's effectively disabled at this point. Like, they don't have the level of infrastructure and technology that Israel does. I mean, it's not even close.
To get more information, they offered none. How do you interpret that?
Well, we've had one hostage family come out and give interviews this morning saying that this doesn't work for them, that the U.S. and Israel turned down the possibility of the two-part deal where at least some of the 20 living hostages that are thought to still remain would be let out, as opposed to all in one go. Basically, Witkoff was trying to tell the hostage families, we haven't given up on you. We're putting maximum pressure on Hamas to get everybody out. And you had families of, for instance, some
20,
of the
how many? 50 or something like that?
Photos have been released saying they don't have a lot of confidence in this. At least if they'd gone with the other plan, there'd be a 60-day schedule and light at the end of the tunnel for some of the families. So a lot of frustration and fear from them.
I bet a lot of the hostages are going to end up dying. That's just the reality. I mean, if these people are, like, so this is the thing, right? If they are religious zealots, they're never going to let them go, and they'll probably kill them first. That's what I would assume is going to happen.
The UK,
they're
France,
already dead. Yeah.
Canada now say that they will recognize a Palestinian state next month if the fighting has not stopped by then. Is that creating any additional pressure on either Israel or the U.S.?
It does send a strong signal, but when you talk to close watchers of the conflict, they say, if you want to hit the Netanyahu government, you've got to hit them with things like economic sanctions.
Would you support the U.S. raiding the compound to free the hostages? Yes, if they were American citizens. No, if they're not American citizens. I think that, if they held hostages of American citizens, then I would absolutely support them doing that 100%, because these are literal terrorists that are taking our citizens hostage. Like, of course we should do that. Like, you can't let that happen. But otherwise, no, it's not our problem.
Europeans do a lot of trade. Israel's largest trading partner, but they haven't threatened to touch that yet. And when you look at it from Netanyahu's point of view, he has to have his back against the wall to step away from fighting in Gaza.
There's no compound,
because right now he's got a minority government. Two major religious parties left his government over the summer. So the ultra nationalists in his government are the ones holding it together. They want the West Bank and Gaza to be re-annexed by Israel. If Netanyahu is perceived as going against their will in any way, he's going to find himself with even less power and likely triggering elections.
All right. Kim Dozier, good to see you this Sunday. Thank you.
I think that's what it is. How do you feel when Americans go to war zones, they get caught up in a war? Would you not say it's better to stay home and find another country to visit? I don't think they should have been there either. But at the end of the day, I mean, these are still our citizens. And if we can't protect our citizens across the world, then we look weak, especially when it's being done by a paramilitary terrorist organization. I mean, again, and it's also like, why would you put up with that? Why would you let this happen? They shouldn't have been at a concert. Yeah, definitely.
Special envoy to the Middle East meeting with families of the hostages held in Gaza. Steve Witkoff told the families his first priority is getting the hostages released all in one group. That's according to the Hostages and Missing Families Forum. As demonstrators protested in Tel Aviv, outrage has grown over the video of Hamas they released of one of the hostages. And we got to warn you that this video is disturbing. It shows one of the hostages in a very delicate state, clearly emaciated. We're deliberately not showing the full video, but his family...
Isn't it a surprise? Wow, I would have never expected that the terrorists are actually not treating the people that they're keeping as hostages very well. Can you believe that? What a shocker. Who could have expected this?
This image being released. CNN reporter Barbie Latino joins us now with more. So there is mounting pressure on the prime minister there to bring these hostages home. What do you know?
Yeah, you know, I mean, there are still 50 hostages, of which only 20 are thought to be alive. Really? And so it's a very delicate situation. And you can just imagine the angst those families of those missing hostages, especially those who think their loved ones are alive, are going through when they see these images. Now, we've seen so many images of the starving children and the starving Gazans. And now to see this, it just puts added pressure both on the Israeli government, but also on the U.S. government, because a lot of people think that President Donald
I don't understand what Hamas is trying to do. It's like they're trying to make shit worse for themselves. As I said, I don't think that there's any way out for them. There's probably no way out. And especially at this point, because they haven't come to an agreement or anything like that, I think that there's no way that they come out of this without just being killed. That's it. Yeah, there's pressure. Yeah, they're buying time. Yeah, I don't think there's any way that Hamas comes out of this without their entire leadership and probably the majority of them being dead.
Trump does have some power to persuade Benjamin Netanyahu to do something. Now, Steve Witkoff, as you said, really wants to bring these hostages home. He met with the hostage families for about 3 hours on Saturday. He also spent 5 hours in Gaza on Friday, and he went to one of the U.S. Israeli distribution centers. This is one of these aid centers where so many people in Gaza have been killed and injured as they wait for aid. It's a complicated situation, but seeing this image of this hostage has made it a lot more painful for those families, Victor.
Understandably. Barbie Latino for us there. Thank you so much.
I feel like this is kind of what's going to happen, is that it's their only card. If they give them back, they're probably dead. Yeah, I mean, at a certain point, I could easily see them just straight up deciding that, you know what, we don't give a fuck, whether you have the hostages or not, we're going to attack you either way. And there will be a tipping point for that happening. And when it gets to that point, I don't really know what's going to happen, but it is going to be very, very, very bad. That's kind of what I'm expecting is going to go. And give up and go back to the open-air prison. The people have been oppressed for so long, they don't give a shit anymore, man. Well, I think that that's not really true in a lot of cases. A lot of the people that are oppressed by them, yeah, obviously Israel are bad actors, but you have to keep in mind that the people that are living in Palestine are also being oppressed by Hamas. You can't go and openly, criticize them. They went and they had a fucking parade or something about how Hamas was bad. And then the person that was leading the parade got killed. Yeah, they voted Hamas. Well, they voted Hamas 20 years ago. That doesn't mean that they agree with everything they're saying now. I mean, that's it. And so, of course, that's clearly a very, very big difference in what's being discussed. I would say it's a very big difference. They just issued a warrant to arrest the Democrats. Yeah, I know. I saw that. And that happened earlier. It's an open representative of their own making. Well, I don't know. All I'm saying is that I don't see any world where they come out of this and it's not bad. That's basically what I'm trying to get at. I did say I would watch this in a couple of days, and that was a couple of days ago. I will look at this. This is insane, so I'll look at it. They still support Hamas at 80%. I wouldn't really put a lot of stock in them supporting that stuff. And the reason why is because they're in a state where they're oppressed. It's like North Korea probably supports, Kim Jong-un, stuff like that.